Okay, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. We'll call the Crow Wing County Board of Commissioners regular county board meeting on Tuesday, August the 11th, 2020 at the historic courthouse in the county boardroom to order. First order of business is a pledge allegiance to the flag and a moment of silence if you'd all please stand.
Okay, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. We'll call the Crow Wing County Board of Commissioners regular county board meeting on Tuesday, August the 11th, 2020 at the historic courthouse in the county boardroom to order. First order of business is a pledge allegiance to the flag and a moment of silence if you'd all please stand. Number 2 on the county board agenda is open forum. This is at a point of the meeting where anybody from the public can address the county board on an issue that is not on the agenda. They can certainly address the board on issues that are on the agenda, but this is their chance to come forward and address the board on any issue that they want to. Is there anybody that is on Teams for open forum?
There's not, Mr.
There's
Chair.
not. Tim, County Administrator, any letters to be read? Okay.
I have nothing.
That takes care of that. Review and approval of the July 28th, 2020 regular county board meeting minutes.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Franzine. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Barrows. Chair has to, because we have a closed meeting, we have to take a roll call on every vote, so the chair will take the roll on approving the regular county board meeting minutes of July the 28th, 2020. Commissioner Brecken. Aye. Commissioner Barrows.
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag. Aye. Commissioner Franzine.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. That motion passes. Commissioner Brecken wants to address the county board.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioners, I would like to make a motion to appoint Commissioner Barrows Chair of the County Board of Commissioners and Commissioner Haug as Vice Chair, effective immediately through the year of 2020. That's the end of my motion.
Okay. Mr. Hool, you need to help me out. What's the,
Mr. Chair,
that was a motion, so I need to have a second on that?
Correct.
Yeah.
I'll second.
Is it seconded by Commissioner Hoag? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'm aware that you are obligated each year at your statutory board meeting to appoint a county board chair and a county board vice chair. I'm not aware of anything that would be a limitation on your ability to do that when you choose.
Okay. Okay. There's a motion. Any further discussion on that motion? Okay, so we're going to take the roll. Commissioner Brecken.
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows.
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag. Aye. Commissioner Franzine.
No.
Chair votes no. Okay, I guess I'm no longer the chair. I don't know what that's all about, but okay, so Commissioner Barrows, you're the chair. I don't know if you want to do it from there or you want to come up here.
For this meeting, I'll do it from here.
Okay.
I'm fine with that. So the next item on our agenda is the approval of the today's agenda. So I'll look for a motion unless there's some changes. Mr. Hool? No changes noted, so I would look for a motion to approve today's agenda.
Also move.
Second, somebody?
Second.
So we have a motion to approve and a second. We'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Haug?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Any commissioners have anything, questions, items to pull?
Question, I've got a question.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
So
Corey.
on the Central Minnesota Emergency Medical Services, Sherburne County, and I thought we had a discussion on this, why is Sherburne County crossed off of there? Are they not part of it, or?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Coring, the Sherburne County withdrew from the Central Minnesota Emergency Medical Services Board. I'm not sure of the background about why they withdrew, but I think it was their withdrawal that probably precipitated the updates to the Joint Powers Agreement, but I don't know that for sure.
Commissioner Coring, as the sitting member from this board on the Joint Powers Board down there, the reason that we were given was that they feel like they're more associated with the metro area. That, if you remember, that's what was discussed at the time. And so they wanted to withdraw so they could associate with that group, which operates differently than the outstate emergency management group does. So that was the reason that they gave. It wasn't a lot of detail, but they just felt that they were more aligned with that group, and so they wanted to withdraw,
Okay.
and that was approved. Anything else on the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Franzine, seconded by Commissioner Brecken. We'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Hoag,
Aye.
Can you turn the
Commissioner
volume down?
Franzine,
Aye.
Commissioner Coring,
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes. Next item on our agenda is presentations, and we'll begin with the Minnesota Rural Counties update. Mr. Larson.
Can't hear him. Okay, are you unmuted, Dan? It looks like you're still muted to me. There we go.
Well, good morning. I have to tell you, I'm having a very difficult time
Okay,
hearing.
Dan, hold on just a second. I am so sorry. Okay, are you unmuted, Dan? Okay. You're still muted to me.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
A little bit better.
Okay. I'm not sure how I'm going to be able to hear you
Dan,
up
hold on
until
just a
now. It's
second.
been
I'm so
garbly.
sorry.
As soon as it went to the board meeting, I was hearing you very clearly, Therese, and then when it went to the board meeting, it was garbled. So
Okay,
can you hear me now?
yes.
Okay.
We can.
We can hear you, but we're getting a lot of feedback, so I'm wondering if anybody else on here is not muted.
To the board meeting, I was hearing you very clearly, Therese, and then when it went to the board meeting.
And
was
it looks
garbled.
like this person is.
So, can you hear me now?
We can.
We can hear you, but we're getting a lot of feedback, so I'm wondering if anybody else on here is not muted. So, oh, maybe.
Almost like a delay.
Looks like this. Hearing me?
As clear as a bell.
Did
It's
you hear
the
that
board
big sigh?
I did. Yes, I did.
Okay, so now I think our feedback should have gone away.
I can still hear it. Can you hear the feedback? Can you hear us?
Hearing you as clear as. I hear no feedback,
You're hearing me?
and I
Okay.
hear you clearly. Clear as a bell.
Did you hear that big sigh?
I did. Yes, I did.
I can hear me talking after the fact. Should if I mute myself?
Yeah.
Can you hear the feedback? Can you hear us?
I hear no feedback, and I hear you clearly.
And that is dead now?
Yes. Let's try that and see what happens.
What? Try what?
Try having him do his thing.
Talk?
Yeah.
If I mute myself? Okay, Dan, say a few words, please. Oh, I muted him. Dan,
Yes,
can you try just talking again?
this is Dan Larson with the Minnesota Rural Counties.
All right.
I mean, there's feedback in the room, but I mean, it's, can you hear that? Okay, Dan, say a few words, please. Oh, I muted him. Dan,
Yes,
can you try just talking again?
this is Dan Larson with the Minnesota Rural Counties.
I mean, there's feedback in the room, but I mean, it's, can you hear that? Okay, Dan.
Oh, do we have two?
Oh, there's two teams up? Oh, that could be why. The YouTube link is still up, isn't it?
Yes. Okay, try that. Now we're down to one team.
Okay, one more time, I'm sorry.
This is Dan Larson, Minnesota Rural Counties.
Okay, we're gonna go for it.
Okay. Well, we're good, and what a pleasure it is to be with you today. Dan Larson, Minnesota Rural Counties, and
Okay, one more
I
time,
have to
sorry.
I have to start off with the last group that I asked if you could hear me in the back. They all said no, and everybody in front
go for it.
got up and went back there to join them. So that was a little bit more of a. I hope this group is a little more receptive than that one. So. Thank you for letting me be here. What a pleasure. This is my favorite thing to do, to visit with other counties about Minnesota rural counties, because it's a good message. I want to thank Therese for working through some technical problems with me. It was harder than it needed to be to get the packets to her, and she was fantastic. And thank Tim for working with me to open the door, and the chair for allowing me to kind of wedge my way in here. Nobody asked if for us to come. I approached your county, and you were good enough to put me on the agenda. But I think we've got a good message for you, and I'm happy to be here today. So in your packet materials, we've got a letter from our county chair, Paul Jurdy, and he's at his own county board meeting today, so I hope you take a look at that. He's encouraging you to listen carefully to what we have to tell you today, and to think about potentially adding your energies to our group. We started, I think this is our 23rd year, and there's a map of who our member counties are. We start for an issue, and the group coalesces around a place where rural counties can go within AMC to talk about issues that are important to rural counties. It started over an issue. The organization formally formed itself in 1997, but probably a year and a half prior to that, 5 counties came to me. I had worked, my background is as a Senate staffer. I ran committees in the Senate, the local government, agriculture, Veterans Committee, and then moved into kind of a lobbying capacity. And a friend of mine said some counties that have called me, and they're in a little bit of a spot. 5 rural counties. I had to look at the map in terms of where they were. Kitson, Rosso, Marshall, Cook, Lake, and at that point it was, I think, Beltrami. What's the issue? The state wants to implement a one-size-fits-all wetland plan where your county would have been required to mitigate on a wetland impact on a one-to-one basis. I had to say, well, okay, your 5 counties, who else is supportive of this? They said, well, it's just us for right now. Our state aid organization is kind of let this round the bend. the next question was, who else doesn't like this? And they said, well, it's very unpopular among rural counties. So who can you get to build your numbers? We said, well, we'll ask. We ended up getting the first week 5 counties, 12 counties. We ended up with 23 counties that actually did resolutions saying they would not abide by the Wetland Conservation Act, the proposed one. Now, I don't know that I would advocate that for my group now, but at that point, it was effective. And it showed that counties coming, even little rural counties, coming together and coordinating a message can put a stop to something that was supported by, at that point, Governor Carlson, the PCA, the DNR, all the major sportsmen's organizations, and the major environmental organizations. What you did by sending that message was to put it out there that there's a group that can't live with a one-to-one mitigation. Well, ultimately, it took 18 months, but what happened from that is the 3-tiered Wetland Conservation Act that has been successful now in our state and actually been used as a model in other states. So the organization continued. We've had other successes since then. If you want to look at parks and trails, we looked around in 2008, and there was the Legacy. The Legacy Act was put on the proposal for a constitutional dedication, and funding from that went to arts, parks, clean water, and the outdoors. And with this group, I said, there's an opportunity for you there, and we found it in parks and trails. So with the great park and trail system that Minneapolis and the Twin Cities have, and the great state park and trail system that the state has, we said, well, why can't Greater Minnesota have its own regional park and trail system? And we went to work, and we carved out, it took another 18 months, but we worked with county parks and trails directors. It was a battle, a pitched battle. We worked against metro counties for the most part, who didn't want to give up a dime of the legacy funding that they thought was theirs. But in the end, we carved out 20% of the park and trail legacy money and created the Greater Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails Commission. Now, this is the Minnesota rural counties getting this initiative started. The park and trail directors took it over the next year. But without this initial strategic help and identifying this issue as a possibility, it would not have happened. Now you've got 20% of the park and trail legacy money dedicated specifically to Greater Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails. That's a decade's worth of funding every year from 2011 until 2034. And it's allowing our state to create a state-of-the-art regional parks and trail system for Greater Minnesota that's going to link up with the state system and the metro system. So there's that. Another thing that I'll point to, and specifically for counties like yours, when the state went into its shutdown in 2011, it came out of the shutdown with an agreement. And part of that agreement was something nobody had, no member of the public or public entity had any input to at all. And that's the Vulnerable Children and Adults Act. So we looked it over and discovered that what that new formula was terrible for a lot of rural counties. And it was especially terrible for counties like Crow Wing. And you look at your packet, these are 2016 numbers, but when the dust settled after the government shutdown, it's terrible for a lot of we froze. We recognized that the formula wasn't working, froze it the next year, and that the freezing of that formula resulted in a cost savings to your county. At what we have, these are a couple years old numbers now, but $321,219 annually. So this little group can do good work. We recognize that the formula wasn't working. On a day-to-day basis, we advocate the rural perspective on things. If you understand, or nobody doesn't know, let's put it this way, that any issue that comes down the hallways of the state capitol these days are as likely to split metro rural as they are along party lines. So we're the only organization that advocates specifically for rural county concerns. So transportation perspectives on roads and bridges, ag and timber are a necessity. These days, it's not popular to grow corn and beans and the scale that we do in Minnesota, or to harvest timber. A lot of people in the city where I grew up and came from just don't like it and they don't understand it. So our group makes sure that to make an effort to balance out those arguments, to talk about that first haul, to talk about the value that corn and beans bring to companies like Cargill and ADM and metropolitan businesses that in downtown that rely on those raw products. Make sure that we did the state general tax a couple of years ago. Somebody in the neighboring county to yours, Don Nemi, raised that issue with our group and said it's just not fair that in a small resource county like ours, that little businesses that make their money in the season, that are seasonal businesses, are taxed a property tax at the state level. So Don, to his credit, and MRC took that and we provided relief for the first 100,000 on revenues. These are some of the things that our organization does. And so you can look in your packet at what we concentrated on during the legislative session. The most unique, I've been with this group for as long as for 1997. This is, like everybody is finding out, the most unique year in my history of lobbying at the state capitol, and I know it is counties. So we'll go back into special session tomorrow. I'm not expecting a lot, but one thing that we are pushing is funding for broadband. When the COVID hit on March 9th, and things shut down, everybody had to take a step back from your lobbying priorities, and we were in a good spot with a $1.5 billion surplus to the COVID fight. And nobody even wanted to ask any questions about, well, what about my roads and bridges? What about my parks and trails projects? You couldn't, because the state was too focused on the fight. Well, after a few weeks, we started saying, wait a minute, if people are going to be shut down and locked away in their homes, there's 18% of greater Minnesota that can't participate. Well, we ought to get back on the horse and talk about broadband. So that's a little bit of the focus that I put in your packets. So the things that we do at MRC over and above well, first of all, we work with the coalition closely, and we'll do a lot of media. I included your board members, you members, in an update that I put out last night to my membership, where I said, okay, this speed test initiative by the Rural Coalition, Broadband Coalition is rolling out. We ought to get behind that, and it's a what do they call it? Where people need to get active. There's a term for it. So, to the extent that we can promote the Speed Goal Initiative, is the extent that's going to show and put more precise maps together, which are now a little clumsy, a lot clumsy. So, so I want you to take a look at that. There's something that I did not include in the packets, and I'll follow up and send you this, but MRC would take and break this down to a personal level. Somebody in your county, in this case, would put somebody who's on the dark side of the broadband movement. This is a young family out of Plato, Minnesota, like the kind you want to see in your county, young, with children in the school district. He's a businessman, he farms and does and sells seed. So the local telco said he's got high-speed broadband, but it's too slow to deliver even basic email and file transfer. He ends up running around with cell phones and finding cellular hotspots, and it costs him $350 a month for that. So we highlight and profile people that are unserved or underserved and get those out to legislators. It's a good organization. I want to thank you for letting me come today, and I'll take some questions if you have them.
Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Larson?
Teresa, you might need to help me.
Dan, can you hear us?
I did not hear that. I heard somebody speaking. I can hear you
Okay,
perfectly.
it was just the chairman asking if there were any questions.
And there's none noted.
None noted.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan. Again, I apologize for today's problems.
Not at all. Thank you for your work.
Have a good day.
You
So,
too. I did not hear that.
Before we move on, I want to ask the
Okay,
commissioners that
it was just the chairman
Mr. Hool
asking if
handed
there
me
were
a
any
note
questions.
saying that to correct this situation that we have with the IT would take about an hour to correct it.
Thank you, Dan. Again,
So
I
the question being
apologize
posed
for
is, do we want to take a 1 hour recess and wait for this to be corrected? Or do we want to plow through with the situation as it is now? Opinions?
You're the chair.
Mr. Chair, can I just add that we have 3 more presentations today,
Right.
which
I would prefer
they
to
have
move through.
PowerPoints as well, and we can't see those PowerPoints without that computer being up.
Plow through with the situation as it is
What
now.
about our audience? Can they stay with us for now? Those that are gonna speak,
Mr. Chair, can I just add that we have... Those that are on the Teams call, can you hear me?
I would prefer.
They have PowerPoints as well. Would everybody be okay coming back in an hour so we can correct our technical problems? If not, can you just, I can't hear any of you because you're all muted right now. I can see some shaking heads. Can you just shoot me an email if this doesn't work for you, and I guess we can reschedule? Coming back in an hour? We're getting a lot of feedback and a lot of humming on this end, so it's just not working out very well. If not, can you just, I can't hear you.
So come back at 11 a.m.?
No, I can see some shaking heads. If, Mr. Chair, 11 a.m., is that when we want to be back?
Yes.
Yes, 11 o'clock. And that's also to our YouTube audience out there. We'll start again at 11. So it's just not working out.
We need a
So
motion.
come back at 11 a.m.?
Just until 11.
If,
Chair, you could just go into recess.
Mr. Chair, 11 a.m., is that when we want to be back?
Yes.
Yes.
So I will declare that we're in recess until 11 o'clock.
And that's also to our YouTube audience out there. We'll start again at 11.
So I will declare that we're in recess until 11 o'clock.
Thank you. So that YouTube stream was gone? Were we not streaming? That computer literally died. Literally died. Stop streaming. I gotta stop streaming, hold on.